When you talk about first overall quarterbacks, names like John Elway, Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, and Joe Burrow all come to mind. But now it's Caleb Williams' turn. After 21 career starts, where does Caleb Williams actually stack up statistically against every number one overall quarterback since 1983? Are we watching the birth of an all-time great or someone on the precipice of complete failure? I crunched the numbers, passing yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and so on. Everything that kind of defines an elite QB. And the results might shock Chicago Bears fans and the entire NFL world. Is Caleb Williams one of the best young quarterbacks we've ever seen at this stage, or is he just middle of the pack when it compared to legends like Elway, Manning, and Burrow? We break it all down and reveal whether the Chicago Bears truly found their franchise savior or just another overhyped number one pick. I'm Rob Schwartz with Bear Goggles On. Joining me tonight is Justin Onayemi. This is the Halas Huddle, where we separate hype from history.
We love having our viewers here, Halas Huddlers. Thank you for your support. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Pass this on to friends too, especially because we know Caleb Williams is a polarizing figure. So I can't wait. Rob, you're kind of the captain of this one, so I'm going to toss it to you. And I'm just curious where this is headed.
Yeah, so I don't even know why I decided to do this. I saw one little blurb on social media, and I was like, all right, I'm going to dive into first overall picks that were quarterbacks, obviously. From 2025, Cam Ward, all the way back, I went all the way to John Elway in 1983. That legendary 1983 draft, right, with Elway and Marino, okay? And I just did a little bit of stat comparison. Look, I didn't go into advanced stats or anything like that. I didn't look at, air yards or anything crazy along those lines. I just went into pretty much the bread and butter of what's important. How many passing yards? How many passing touchdowns? Interceptions? What's that TD to interception ratio? Completion percentage. I did look at rushing touchdowns, although I don't think it really matters too much because I didn't really get, I didn't put Michael Vick in this, even though he was one of those first picks. Fumbles, sacks, obviously, is extremely important when we talk about Caleb Williams. And then wins. And I'm going to preface this. I don't think wins are a quarterback stat. I can't stand when people compare wins, but I felt like it needed to be done just in this example because I feel like too many people think that that's just what it is, a quarterback stat. It's not. It's a team stat. The NFL is a 53-man roster. It's not something that you can easily just put on one person, even if that person might be the most important player or position on the offense. So let's get quickly into it. We're going to start off.
So real quick before you do, preseason, yes. I did a deep dive at quarterbacks from 2000 to this point. And part of that was looking at number ones. Now, I agree with you on the stats in terms of how hard it can be to decide what matters and what doesn't. But I will just put a little preface on this. I could even tell just going back to 2000 to today that some of these stats, you can just tell the game has changed. And so to go all the way back to 83, I imagine that's going to corrupt some of what we talk about today. But like I said, take the reins, my man. I can't wait.
It's definitely going to corrupt it. But the thing is, people still compare those, put those names, right? They put those names out there. Oh, I mean, look, Peyton Manning's obviously going to come up in this, right? John Elway is going to come up in this. Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff. There definitely was a shift at some point, and you're going to see it. Before we get to the bigger names, I'm just going to throw this out there. I didn't even put the stats in here for guys like Cam Ward, who just started. He's only 4 games into his year. Can't even do the 21-game comparison. I didn't put Bryce Young stats up into my spreadsheet either because guess what? I already know Caleb Williams at this point is a better quarterback through his first 21 games than Bryce Young was through his first 21 games. Why waste my time? It's not worth it. Okay. So again, these guys, they're not even listed here, but the Jamarcus Russells of the world also, right? Like another name that just wasn't worth my time putting in the stats. So we can quickly move on from the bums. I already know all these people out here saying Caleb Williams is a bust. You're completely out of your freaking mind because he is nowhere near bust status, nowhere near bum status. He is already already in that conversation to be compared to the mids. So let's get right into the mids. Now, when we look at the mids, I look at guys like Trevor Lawrence, Eli Manning, who has 2 Super Bowls, by the way, Drew Bledsoe, who also has a Super Bowl, kind of. Troy Aikman, who has 3 Super Bowl wins, right? So statistically, though, when you go back and look at these guys from a comparison to where we are now, look, Troy Aikman's one of those guys I think falls into that category you were talking about, where things changed. Troy Aikman, drafted in 1989. Okay. Just really quick. I'm not even going to dive deep into this, but we're just going to do a real quick comparison. Caleb Williams through 21 games, 4,468 passing yards to Troy Aikman at 3,765. Okay. Already above him in that area. Passing touchdowns. Hold on. I already screwed this up. My spreadsheet's wrong. Anyway, just trust me that he has more passing touchdowns than Troy Aikman did in his first 21 games. Interceptions, Troy Aikman threw 33. Caleb Williams only had 8. 56.6% completion percentage. That's another thing I noticed when you go back in time. The completion percentages, it wasn't like you were expecting this 70% number that Ben Johnson threw out this year. Guys are in the 40s and 50s. And yet still considered the all-time greats in some of these cases. So again, 56.6% completion percentage over those first 21 games from Troy Aikman. 11 fumbles. He took 51 sacks. Let's compare that to Caleb Williams at 75. Still a big difference, but I think the way we're seeing the trend, the hope is that by the time we're done with this season, Caleb Williams kind of gravitates back to that median, right? Gets back down to that middle road. 4 wins in his first 21 games for Troy Aikman. So again, QB stats, not a thing for me for wins, but let's compare 4 wins to 7 for Caleb Williams. All right. Drew Bledsoe now has way more yardage. Okay. Over 5,000 yards. So a little over 500 yards more. Similar passing touchdowns, 28 for Caleb, 29 for Drew Bledsoe. 33 interceptions though, right? Just like Aikman. So 33, that's less than a 1-to-1 ratio for touchdowns to interceptions. Not good. Eli Manning, less yardage than Caleb Williams, 4,468 again. Remember, for Caleb Williams, we're down to 4,291 for Eli. Same exact passing touchdowns, 28-28. Interceptions, again, 8 for Caleb Williams, 24 for Eli Manning. You're just seeing the difference here. A 50.5% completion rating over those 21 games for Eli Manning, and yet still came away with 2 Super Bowls in his career. Okay. 10 fumbles, 37 sacks, 12 wins. Okay. So he does have more wins. Going back to Bledsoe, he had 8. So right around the same as Caleb Williams. Let's look at a more recent guy, the last guy here in the mids, Trevor Lawrence, a name that I think a lot of people put out there as the next generational quarterback since Andrew Luck, right? That was one of the guys, okay? Trevor Lawrence, slightly more yardage at 4,587. 8 less passing touchdowns, okay? 19 interceptions. Again, back to that 8. Completion percentage is a good one, 63.92, where, Caleb's at 62.4. So he's got him a little bit there. 1 extra rushing touchdown. So we want to talk rushing TDs. 1 extra fumble, 13-12. Way less sacks, only 38 sacks to that 75 number. 5 wins compared to Caleb Williams' 7. Okay. So again, that's that group right there. Okay. Now I don't have the Baker Mayfields in here, but we know that his start to his career is not where he is at now. Baker Mayfield to me right now is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL over the last couple of years with Tampa Bay. Even if, and we've talked about this, things are not linear, right? Things are not linear. Even if Caleb Williams is dominating in this area, it doesn't mean that 10 years from now, he's not towards the bottom, right? So I want to preface that as well. But the point here is that, look, he's already in this class of mids, and there's a couple things that stand out that we'll talk about where he ranks at the end that I think puts him way above these guys.
So I think the more modern day comparisons. So you're talking Trevor Lawrence and Baker Mayfield. I think Caleb kind of performed admirably to both. And like you said, look at where Baker Mayfield was at that time and how he was considered and where he is now. That shows that if you played similar to him at the 20 game mark, you could make a similar jump. And I'm sure we'll get to talking about Goff later, but my big emphasis on the Goff comparison was how much of a difference you saw when Goff got real coaching from Sean McVay and Matt LaFleur as his OC. And so we're seeing that now with Caleb. Caleb seems, statistically, you can say whatever you want from his rookie year to now, but just the way he's conducting himself as a quarterback to me seems completely different under Ben Johnson. And so I almost want to say, let's look at his next 10, 20 games under Ben Johnson, and that's where you see where he may level out. And it will be above the likes of the guys you just mentioned, in my belief.
Yeah, I mean, just think about the statistics that he put up from a quarterback standpoint under Matt Eberflus, under Thomas Brown, under Shane Waldron. I think all these guys that basically were here and now gone, either halfway through or at the end of the year. And outside of sacks, and look, and I know he wasn't perfect. Like his deep throw percentage wasn't great, and there was many things that he was struggling with. That's already seeing improvement this year, right? Like I don't have those stats in front of me, but just from the eye test, it's already seeing drastic improvements this year. But the sack percentage is just already way better too. And we talked about it in the off season leading into this season. A lot of those sacks weren't even on Caleb Williams. Like out of those 68 sacks, I think it was close to 50 of them were due to the offensive line. You're seeing someone who is moving better within the pocket, right? And when he does elude, he's finding ways to either get rid of the ball, whether it's throw it away or whatever. And he's still not turning the ball over a ton. He has 2 interceptions on the year this year, right? Like it's not like some drastic change of pace here, where a lot of these guys have more interceptions than touchdowns, or they're very close to being the same.
So number one, I'm just going to say him real quick. He probably goes in the bums category, but you didn't mention him. But just because you keep mentioning one of the very obvious marks against Caleb Williams being sacks, historically, David Carr was the sack master. But the rest of his numbers, way less yardage, way fewer touchdowns, way more interceptions. And that gives you the impression that being sacked that many times was having an impact on his ability to even see the field, seeing ghosts kind of thing. Even though Williams was taking those sacks, I never got the impression he was rattled to the point where he couldn't perform.
No, I mean, think about the fourth quarter, they didn't win half the time, but the fourth quarter, like somewhat comebacks. I mean, they were putting themselves in positions to win. They were winning at times in the fourth quarter, and then the defense let them down, or it wasn't the situation where like they turned the ball over. It wasn't like Jordan Love who threw an interception to the Cleveland Browns to lose 13-10.
Which again is why you can't put wins completely on a quarterback. I mean, if he had 3 more wins all of a sudden, the games that Washington, they should have won according to how he played. Green Bay, Detroit, well, Detroit maybe not, but you get my point. So,
yes.
All right, he's past the mids. Let's keep going.
All right. Let's check out Caleb versus Good. You mentioned him already. I have him here. I know he's having some, very elite-ish years here or up there in Detroit. I'm not ready to put Jared Goff in the elite category yet, mainly because they succeeded enough in the playoffs, and I still fear that something might happen and something might change now that Ben Johnson is gone. And I know that they've, put some games together and it's looking really good. So if he has another good season right now, I think with Chad Morton's their offensive coordinator right now, if he finished out that year, he probably does get put into that upper echelon. The thing is like, he's not a Peyton Manning. Like I can't put him there. He's not a John Elway. I can't put him there. I don't even know if I can put him in the Joe Burrow category at this point. So it's probably pretty close though. And then Matthew Stafford, who was the Jared Goff at one point in Detroit before he got traded and finally won a Super Bowl with the Rams. But let's just take a quick look here. Look, I'm going to do Matthew Stafford first. Slightly more yards. Okay.
Sorry, before you go, just I haven't heard the comparison yet, but it's interesting that Stafford's the guy we're talking about right here, because coming into the league, Williams was asked, who are the quarterbacks you look up to and model your game after, in a sense, and he self-identified Stafford as one of those guys.
Yeah,
and then you
Stafford
look
and
at the
Aaron
coaching,
Rodgers, right?
you look at the coaching type comparisons, and Goff's name keeps coming up. So I'm very locked into what you're saying here. If he's sitting in this company, I think we're in good shape, and if he's above it, even better.
I think we're going to be in really good shape. So Matthew Stafford, his first 21 starts, let me tell you, it took him 3 years to get to 21 starts due to injury. Rough start for him, but 4,981 yards. So just under that 5,000 mark. So again, roughly 450, 500 yards more than Caleb Williams. Passing touchdowns, he has 10 more. Okay, so 38 to 28. He definitely put up more passing touchdowns, but he was a little loose with the ball. 25 interceptions over those 21 starts. Completion percentage, 60.88. So again, not anything like drastically, bad. I should say not drastically better, because it's worse than Caleb Williams at 62.4. Slightly less fumbles with 9. And obviously the sacks still higher than some of the other guys at 44, but way down. Back to the wins, 9 versus 7. So again, not a drastic difference there between those 21 starts. Jared Goff, look, if you think Jared Goff is on the precipice of being elite, then you better be damn well excited about Caleb Williams. Okay, that's all I got to say. Like, this should be, if Bob's going to put some shorts together, this is where the shorts are. If you are excited about Jared Goff, where he is right now, you had better be damn well excited for Caleb Williams. And I don't want to hear bust come out of your mouth. Not even close. Over those first 21 starts, 4,468. Again, Caleb Williams versus 4,592, almost dead even. Okay, for Jared Goff. Passing touchdowns, 28 for Caleb Williams, 29 for Jared Goff, almost neck and neck, right? Here's where he gets him. Interceptions, 8 for Caleb Williams, 14 for Jared Goff. Still not bad, especially when you're comparing it to 25 for Stafford, but right there. Completion percentage, only 58%, okay, versus that 62 number for Williams. Here we go. 11 fumbles to 12. Again, almost identical. Okay, 1 rushing touchdown, 2 rushing touchdowns, almost identical. 50 sacks. So again, creeping closer to that 75 number, right? And the wins is 7 versus 11. So he does have a slight bump there, but again, I'm not giving that to just the quarterback. Almost identical, Justin.
Yeah, I mean, when I did my comparisons, I was only looking at year 1 to year 2, and Caleb Williams had not played a single game yet of the 2025 season. But with Goff, one thing I did point out was his rookie year, of which he only played 7 games, was much, much worse than Caleb Williams. So looking from year 1, which was only 7 games, to year 2, which actually takes you to 22 games, I believe, because I think he played 15 in his second season, he had over 100 yards more per game from year 1 to year 2. And I do think it made a big difference going to a real coach, a real OC, and he was a Pro Bowler in his second year. And we don't know if Caleb has an opportunity for that this year. A lot is still to be said. There's only 4 games in the books. But his rookie year was not as bad as people say. And to me, it's clear that he's improved from there.
Yeah, Jeff Fisher is basically the Matt Eberflus in this situation.
Yep.
Right? All right, let's move on to the elites.
All right.
Can he get here? Or is he already here? I don't know. All right, here's the names. These are the 4 guys I focused on. All right. Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, John Elway, Joe Burrow. Let's go back in time and work.
Before you talk, though, let me predict. I will say that there is no way his numbers are anywhere near Andrew Luck or Joe Burrow. I think it will be surprising how he compares to Peyton Manning. And honestly, I can't think about what Elway's early career was. So that's the
We're going to go to Elway's early career. And here's where it's interesting. And this is why the NFL is different now than it used to be in the 80s, right? John Elway, over his first 21 starts, only threw for 3,592 yards. Okay. Almost 100 yards or almost 1,000 yards below where Caleb Williams is now. clearly the game has changed.
Well,
right?
and guys didn't used to start right away. So I wonder, did he sit for a while? I don't remember, but that was another factor.
Yeah, so if I'm remembering this correctly, I think he started one game and then he was benched for a little bit and then he finished out the season. He was drafted by Baltimore, right? But he didn't play for Baltimore.
Right.
But again, where they start, where they finish, John Elway is a Hall of Famer, right? Also a guy who's kind of known for running the ball, at least, aggressively into the end zone sometimes. I still recall the Jay Cutler flip that reminded me of the John Elway era, but 22 touchdowns to 28, 23 interceptions. So one more interception than touchdown, 56% completion percentage. Again, one rushing TD, 46 sacks, 46 sacks. Now here's the difference. 18 wins. What does that tell you?
Well, his team was ready to play. He did handpick where he went. And if he didn't start right away, then maybe things were built up a little better by the time he entered the scene. So,
yeah. All right, let's move down the line. Again, we're going to go in order here. So now we're, over 15 years into the future here in 1998. Not over, but 15 exactly, right? Mm-hmm. Peyton Manning. This is where Caleb Williams falls off. Okay. 5,134 yards. Okay. So again, 600-ish yards below. 37 touchdowns. So again, kind of like Matthew Stafford, he's got him by about 10.
40-something interceptions.
35.
Okay.
35. So he had more interceptions than touchdowns his rookie year. And then things started to level out a little bit in those, first 5-6 games and into the next year. So again, not awful. But again, 60.8% completion percentage. So, I mean, it's not, you don't have to have a 70% completion percentage to see things go well, right? Now, again, I'm not looking at his career stats, and clearly things have improved for Manning as he continued to go through there. Here's a big thing, though. Only 24 sacks. Like that's pretty good pocket awareness, or a really, really good offensive line.
Okay, but let me ask you. If every time you take a sack, the alternative is, if every third sack you take, the alternative is you throw one interception. Mm-hmm. Would you take that? Like if Williams, instead of having 75 sacks, had 50, but he threw 12 more interceptions. You know what I mean? Like, because some of these guys, their interception numbers are way up, and maybe you just don't throw it and you take a sack. Within a game, It's hard to tell which is worse. But I think that one of the reasons his interception numbers is so low is that his sack number is so high, and vice versa.
Correct. And I think if you recall, I don't remember where you were on this, but I know I said it a few times. Like sometimes I would have rather seen him last year just throw some interceptions or take some risk balls and throw them deep. And if it gets intercepted, it gets intercepted.
Could be a PI too.
Exactly. So, so that's why I called it a risk ball, right? Because you're putting it out there and you're hoping for your receiver to do the work. Look at what Matthew Stafford, what his numbers might have been if he didn't have Calvin Johnson in the early parts of his career. And
he's done it with a lot of receivers, though.
He proved himself.
Since then.
Yes. No, he proved himself. It wasn't just a Calvin Johnson thing like most of us thought in the beginning of his career. No, I completely agree with you. Like, and in that case, like maybe had Manning, gotten to that 50 number, maybe that 35 number would be more like 20.
Yeah.
So, and it's hard to kind of, figure that out. Oh God, the stupid 6-7 crap again. All right, let's look at Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck is the one that everyone wanted to compare Caleb Williams to, right? That, people said, well, some people sprinkled in Trevor Lawrence in there, and then they're like, well, no, Trevor Lawrence was never going to be that guy, but Caleb Williams is going to be that guy.
People were talking about Trevor Lawrence. That's revisionist history. People were talking about Lawrence.
100%. I even think Joe Burrow came up a little bit in that regard.
I don't recall that as much, but he's earned it. But anyway, had it not been for injuries. But I want to hear these next two. I don't think Caleb touches either one of these guys.
Okay, so Andrew Luck, second most passing yards over 21 games, 5,518. Okay. So way, way up there. Almost 1,000 yards more. Passing touchdowns are similar, 28 to 30. So not a big difference there. Okay. Interceptions, again, 8 for Caleb Williams, 20 for Andrew Luck. So definitely, again, here in Caleb Williams' favor.
I'm a bit surprised.
57.15% completion percentage. Okay. He did have 7 rushing touchdowns, though, where Caleb only has 1. So I think that's a little bit of a uptick there. I felt like I had to bring that one up because he had the most rushing touchdowns out of everyone as well. Same number of fumbles with 12. Look, 53 sacks, the second most sacks in this whole entire grouping of everyone here, Andrew Luck. And partly why I think Andrew Luck decided to retire was all the hits that he was taking early. And he decided he wanted to not have CTE or hope to not have CTE at some point in his life. Again, 15 wins. Okay. So he actually had the most wins out of everyone as well, outside of John Elway.
Inherited Peyton Manning's team that had some talent.
Yes.
So I think that speaks to what he was stepping into, being a very good situation, a winning culture.
Yes. Now, I will say I think that the Bears had the talent. They just didn't have the culture. They didn't have the coaching staff.
Right.
So, I don't like to, revise my history here and say, well, Caleb Williams deserves a little bit of help, or not help, but like a little bit of leeway because, even though the talent was there, the coaching staff was bad. Everyone in the beginning was like, he's walking into one of the best situations ever, and it didn't go well. So again, coaching staffs matter though. All right. Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is a darling when it comes to NFL stats. He just cannot stay healthy. The Bengals cannot win games, at least at this point in their time. And now he's out for the season, unfortunately. He is number one. I mean, it's going to be pretty close, right? Okay. I still have Jamar Chase and Chase Brown on my fantasy team. And I mean, what am I going to do? Drop them? No, of course not. And finally, Jamar Chase had a game.
Well, he did. And also, I was going to say, does he get credit for tackles? Because their quarterback's throwing so many picks that he might crack up in that department. So
maybe he should take some more sacks. All right. So Joe Burrow leads the way with 5,523, not much more than Andrew Luck there over those 21. 35 passing touchdowns and paired with 4 rushing touchdowns. I think he has the most out of everyone out of this whole entire group if you put total TDs together.
Very high completion rate.
17 interceptions. Okay. Not too bad. 67.85% completion.
That's
right?
Insane. With that yardage too.
Exactly. That is insane with that yardage. Just how accurate he was. And I was not like, this was probably the year before I really dove into the draft as much as I do now. But the idea that like, I never thought he was going to be this good. I thought he was going to be like a one-year wonder type situation for LSU. And like, wow, look, it helps that he has Jamar Chase, but like he did it for a year without him. And then like the fact that he was just able to just continue and build and build and build. I just wish he could stay healthy. Number 2 in sacks and pretty darn close to Caleb Williams, 62 to 75.
Wow. I didn't know he had that many, but he's been injured a lot too. So those hits maybe
that's right.
Take a toll.
That's right. And then just real quick, 9 wins compared to 7. So
okay.
All right.
Yeah. Well, there's one quarterback you totally left off that I'm surprised about, but
Kyler Murray.
Who?
Kyler Murray.
No. Oh, that's a good one. No, that's not who I was thinking. I was thinking Cam Newton.
But he was originally on my list. I do have him here. I just didn't put.
It's okay that you did, especially the way his career then went. I'm hoping he's nothing like Cam Newton. So.
Yeah, it wasn't until his 2015.
All right. So when you put it all together, where do you feel he ranks?
Yeah. So when I put it all together, for me, he's already in the good. He's already in the good. We just talked about like where he is as a first overall pick compared to Jared Goff, almost identical. Compared to Matthew Stafford, very, very similar. there's one area that Caleb Williams blows everyone away, and that's that touchdown to interception ratio. He's sitting at a 3.5. The closest to him is Jared Goff at 2.07 and Joe Burrow at 2.06. That's a huge difference. The number one overall across the board for TD to interception ratio from any quarterback. And I know I didn't list all the other ones, but it's including the ones that aren't here named here. Any quarterback drafted first overall from 2025 to 1983, Caleb Williams leads this area.
But that number that you just said, he leads by so much that it almost does make it seem like it's an anomaly. Like, okay, he's only thrown 8 picks in 21 games. I can think of like 3 or 4 that should have been picked. You know what I mean? But I'm sure that must be true for these guys, the other guys, like DBs and linebackers. The reason they play defense is they're not known for their hands. So, but I think we did get onto something with the sacks. Taking a lot of sacks will bring down your interception number. So that's the only thing I can think of. But to hear that Burrow's sack numbers were that high and he threw more picks, I mean, that kind of also makes you think Caleb might just be a little bit better at protecting the ball in that regard.
Yeah. And okay, so let's really quick too. I mean, a lot of people bring up his completion percentage out of all of these. And I know, again, we talk about how years matter, right? But, you know, I got a guy in here from 2016, from 2020, from 2021. He is third on the list behind only Trevor Lawrence, which he's slightly behind, and Joe Burrow.
And Joe Burrow is the anomaly.
And Joe Burrow is the anomaly in this case. Yes. So again, better than Andrew Luck, better than Matthew Stafford, better than Peyton Manning, better than Troy Aikman, better than John Elway, better than Eli Manning. Like 62.4 isn't bad. It's not elite where we are right now. You know, again, Ben Johnson wants that 70%. But when I look at this, I also remember, and I should actually do this at some point. If you go game by game by game by game, the beginning of his 2024 career, he was in like the high 40s for some of those games, low 50s for some of those games. And if you go back and look at the trajectory and it's not, again, it's not a straight line. It just crept up the whole entire season until it was finally in that 60 to 65 range for basically the back half of the year.
I mean,
I don't know. What do you think? Where do you have him ranked here? You know, where does this give you a feeling of where you think he should be when we're at least comparing him to number one overall picks?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, when I did my deep dive, it wasn't just number ones. You know, I looked at number ones obviously for that reason. I looked at guys in the top 10. I looked at first rounders, and I just looked at all quarterbacks. And my point then was he's comparing favorably to a lot of guys. I mean, there was a very small number that you could say definitively had played better than Caleb in his rookie year. So that's where I just didn't understand where this idea that he was, you know, already a bust, especially I didn't understand that, or even that he was trending towards being a bust. Now, when your team is a dumpster fire and really looks horrible, I guess that does reflect on you as the quarterback. But I'm not willing to just say, because of that, he's bad. We already see what it looks like now with what we believe is a either changing or changed culture. And already, like, if that's a thing of the past, like beating yourself and playing miserably, and he's now on a team that is successful, then I think the numbers won't be disputable at that point. Because that's just, let's be honest, like you put up good numbers and lose, people can still criticize you all they want. You put up decent numbers and win, you're Eli Manning and you're talked about as a Hall of Famer, even though the numbers don't show that. I mean, so it's quite interesting. But I agree with you. He's already sitting with those goods. And I was surprised when you brought up the elites. I assumed the only one he would beat out would be potentially John Elway. And then even even Peyton Manning, because I had heard how his rookie, you know, it was brought back to me how many interceptions he threw his rookie year. I thought maybe he would beat him out. But to hear that, you know, even Burrow and Luck weren't totally blowing past him, That's pretty surprising. So we'll just have to wait and see. I guess we'll have to do 32 games at some point because that's hopefully 2 seasons worth, and then see where he's at.
Yeah, it's too early to know where his career is going to be, right? But I'm just, for me, and I think this is like where I'm done with it, and we can move on to the outro. But like for me, I'm just tired of literally seeing people still call him a bust. Like it just doesn't make any sense. There's nothing about what we have seen from him through his career at this point that says bust. He is by far better than Mitch Trubisky. And like I'm just going to compare him to Bears quarterbacks. He's better than Mitch Trubisky. He's better than Jay Cutler at this point. He is better than Justin Fields truthers. And I was a Fields truther. And look, Fields is having statistically another good year for the Jets, and the Jets still suck. It's ridiculous that anyone can sit here and still call him a freaking bust. It makes zero sense to me. Zero.
Well, I think he's a polarizing character for reasons that have nothing to do with football. And you went to 83, and that's Elway's year. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of the negativity that I hear, even to this day, about Elway goes back to him being a prima donna during the draft process and refusing to go to the team that was going to pick him and all that. And so those types of things can taint what people view of you, but your play on the field should still speak for the play on the field. Because I don't remember anyone saying Elway was a bust, even though they might have called him a prima donna, or even though they said, hey, you were stuck up to kind of choose where you went. And I guess, he had talent enough to be considered a baseball player, and that's one of the things he leveraged. But so what? Like, then he became a football player, and you evaluate how he does on the field. So let's just wait and see, guys. But I'm excited with where he's at, and I'm even more excited with where I think he's headed. Bear goggles are on, I will admit, but the numbers are still showing it.
They always should be on, by the way. Yeah. Again, I just thought it was interesting. I saw the one stat specifically about where his TD to interception ratio was, and that's what made me kind of dive down this rabbit hole a little bit, and to be shocked at how drastically ahead he is. To your point, maybe it is a little bit of an anomaly, right? Like he might be the outlier here, and it might come back a little bit, towards the norm, but he still has a long way to go to get to even, where Burrow and Jared Goff are at that 2-to-1 ratio. So I'm excited to see where Caleb Williams goes. I want to see a win over Washington. That will definitely make me feel a lot better. But again, not a quarterback stat, so I'm not going to just put it all on him. I don't know how they're going to stop the running game, but that's neither here nor there. It's a different podcast, different episode.
You were out of town when Bob and I did our last episode. Did you get to the part where I talked about what the Bears have done defensively on first downs this season?
Yeah.
It's abysmal. They should not be 2-2 based on that statistic alone, but other stats are
when you're basically giving up a first down on first down every time. That is not good football.
Yeah. Well, 2-2. Winning games winning games you could have lost is not something we're familiar with as Bears fans of late. So I gladly welcome that over losing games you should win.
100%. All right.
Great job, Rob. Great job.
I got nothing else. For those of you who are still watching, please go to the comments section. Please let us know where you think Caleb Williams ranks in these bums, mids, goods, elites category or among other first overall picks. Leave whatever other comments you want. Call me an idiot. Call me a fool. Call him a bust if you want. I'll argue with you some more in the comments. Until next time.
If you call him a bust, leave us the statistics that support that.
Yes, 100%. I would love to see them. Again, I didn't get into the advanced stats. I'm sure there's things out there that you can cherry pick and make it to your case. You can do that with almost any statistic out there. But until next time, the only statistic that matters is that the Halas Huddle is here for you and all of your glory and all of your misery. Bear down, claws up. Ready, break.